Hello and welcome to Intelligent Pod, the show where we dive deep into the science, stories, and strategies that help us become more thoughtful, informed, and empowered humans. I'm your host, Sophie Lane, and I am absolutely thrilled you're here today. Whether you're catching up on your commute, taking a walk, or simply looking for a new perspective, you've chosen a fantastic episode. Today, we're exploring a topic that's been gaining traction in workplaces, classrooms, and around dinner tables: neurodiversity, specifically how reframing brain differences as strengths can transform our lives and communities. So, if you've ever wondered why some people think or process information differently, or maybe you've felt that way yourself, this episode is for you. We'll talk about what neurodiversity really means, unpack some myths, look at the science, and hear stories that highlight the incredible strengths found in brains that don't always fit the so-called norm. By the end of this episode, you'll walk away with practical advice for celebrating brain differences, whether at home, at work, or in your own self-understanding. Let's get started. First things first, what exactly is neurodiversity? The term neurodiversity was coined in the late 1990s by Judy Singer, an Australian sociologist who is herself autistic. It's a simple but powerful idea. Just as biodiversity describes the variety of life in the natural world, neurodiversity refers to the natural variety in human brains and minds. It recognizes that conditions such as autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, and others aren't just medical diagnoses or deficits. They're part of the broad spectrum of human diversity. Now, let's put that into context with some numbers. According to the CDC, about 1 in 6 children in the United States has a developmental difference, including autism, ADHD, or a learning disability. That's millions of people, students, coworkers, friends, family members, whose brains work in unique and valuable ways. And yet, for much of modern history, those differences have been seen through a deficit lens, as things to be fixed, managed, or overcome. But here's the thing. When we approach neurodiversity like biodiversity, not as a problem, but as a source of resilience and innovation, amazing things can happen. Think about this. Some of the most creative, successful people in history, Albert Einstein, Simone Biles, Steve Jobs, Temple Grandin, have talked openly about how their differences shaped their achievements. Let's dig a little deeper and explore this from a few perspectives. First up, the psychological view. For decades, psychology tended to categorize conditions like autism and ADHD primarily in terms of what people struggled with: difficulties with communication, attention, or executive functioning. But new research is shifting that narrative. A 2019 study published in the journal Nature Neuroscience found that people with ADHD showed higher levels of creativity, especially in divergent thinking tasks. That means they were better at coming up with lots of solutions to open-ended problems, a skill that's incredibly valuable in today's fast-changing world. The same goes for dyslexia. While it's true that people with dyslexia often find reading and spelling challenging, research from the University of Cambridge suggests that many also excel at big-picture thinking, spatial reasoning, and seeing connections that others might miss. That means someone who struggles with reading a paragraph might be the very person who can design a game-changing product or spot a pattern that solves a complex business challenge. Now, let's take a scientific lens. Our brains are wired in endlessly unique ways. Neuroimaging studies show that autistic brains, for example, often have more connections in certain regions and fewer in others. This can lead to what some call spiky profiles, extraordinary strengths in one area paired with challenges in another. Temple Grandin, who is autistic and a prominent animal behaviorist, often says, "The world needs all kinds of minds." Her ability to think visually, literally seeing her designs in her mind's eye, helped her revolutionize the livestock industry. And let's not forget about attention. People with ADHD are often described as distractible, but scientific studies also point to their ability to hyper-focus on tasks they find interesting. That kind of sustained attention, when channeled, can lead to breakthroughs in art, technology, and more. Shifting gears, let's consider neurodiversity from a cultural perspective. Different societies understand and value brain differences in different ways. In some indigenous cultures, for instance, people who think or perceive the world differently are seen as having special gifts or insights. There's a rich tradition of recognizing that diversity in thought brings strength to the community. But in many modern workplaces and schools, there's still a strong push to fit everyone into the same mold. Sit still, follow the rules, process information in the same way. This can leave neurodivergent individuals feeling marginalized or misunderstood. The good news? That's changing. More companies are recognizing the value of neurodiversity. Microsoft, for example, has a dedicated hiring program for people on the autism spectrum. They found that neurodivergent employees often bring exceptional skills in pattern recognition, memory, and detail-oriented work. Now, I want to share a real-life story that really brings this to life. Meet Maya, a graphic designer who was diagnosed with dyslexia in elementary school. For years, she struggled in traditional classrooms, feeling like she was always a step behind her peers when it came to reading and writing. But Maya's brain was wired for visuals. She could see colors, shapes, and layouts in her mind, and she started channeling that talent into art. Fast forward a decade, and Maya now runs her own design studio. Her clients rave about her ability to create logos and brand identities that are bold, memorable, and visually stunning. Maya says, "My dyslexia isn't something I need to overcome. It's my superpower. It lets me see the world differently. And that's what makes my work stand out." Stories like Maya's remind us, when we focus only on what people can't do, we miss out on what they can do, and sometimes what only they can do. So how can we put this reframing into action in our daily lives? Here are some practical tips, whether you're a parent, a teacher, a manager, or someone navigating your own neurodivergent journey. First, shift your language. Instead of talking about disorders or deficits, try using terms like differences, strengths, or unique wiring. Words matter. They shape how we see ourselves and others. Second, focus on strengths. If you're a teacher, notice a student who struggles with reading but loves building things. Encourage that talent. If you're a manager, look for ways to match projects with people's natural abilities, not just their job titles. Third, advocate for accommodations, not as special favors, but as tools that help everyone thrive. Extra time on tests, flexible work hours, or noise-canceling headphones aren't about lowering standards. They're about leveling the playing field. Fourth, expand your idea of normal. There's no one right way to think, learn, or create. When we embrace different brain types, we get diversity of thought, and that leads to better ideas, stronger teams, and more inclusive communities. And finally, if you're neurodivergent yourself, remember that your brain's differences are a valid and valuable part of who you are. Seek out environments and relationships that celebrate your strengths. You are not broken, you are different, and that difference can be your greatest asset. As we wrap up, let's return to our main idea. Neurodiversity isn't just about recognizing brain differences. It's about reframing them as sources of strength, creativity, and resilience. When we make space for all kinds of minds, we all benefit. So here's my reflective question for you. What would change in your life or in your community if you looked at brain differences as assets rather than obstacles? How might your relationships, your work, or your self-understanding shift if you leaned into the strengths that come from thinking differently? Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Intelligent Pod. If you found today's discussion helpful, I'd love for you to leave a review. It helps others discover the show, and it means a lot to me. You can find detailed show notes, resources, and more at intelligentpod.com. And if you have feedback, stories, or questions, I'd absolutely love to hear from you. Email me anytime at sophie@intelligentpod.com. Until next time, keep embracing all the ways your mind and the minds around you make the world a more interesting, innovative, and compassionate place. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.